right, let's get the live stream going. Let's make sure we're live. Okay. My name is Kelby. I want to thank you and welcome you to the Q&A for Monday, January 26, 2026. It's been an awesome year for his advocates. I want to thank everybody for supporting us, trusting us, venturing off into getting to know us. And I don't think anything is by chance, and I think everything is by design. We are getting some pushback and in a big way from county recorders. I'm going to touch base on that a little bit. And I want to assure you that we are in the right. And what we are doing is of God, and what we're doing is for God and for our families, and it's the right position to be in. Um, First and foremost, I am sorry. I am orange. I don't know what's going on. I can't figure this one out. It's been this way for a while now. Obviously the lighting or something. I've gone through the settings multiple times. I can't figure it out, but I will get it figured out. I'll get some better lighting soon. But thank you for putting up. I am. This is not a special tan or cream that I misapplied. I promise you, I am very different and more white than this is showing. Anyway, looking forward to 2026. There's been a lot of stuff that's gone on in the last couple of years. I do want to reiterate, nobody is getting in trouble, guys. Nobody is having issues. And let's start with the IRS. We do a thing that I like to call the trifecta. We created the living in the private program for the purposes of making people have an opportunity to feel safe. And in doing so, we took warrants and indictments, not because we're worried about that, but because that is simply how they tell you how they have jurisdiction over a man or a woman. And we reverse engineered warrants and indictments and created the living in the private program. I had an aha moment probably 12, 13 years ago. And I'll be frank with you, I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I was seeing things differently than the average bear. And I'm only saying that because I'd gone through uh, owning businesses, having to close them down due to the 2008 crash, having to lose my home, uh, had hundreds of employees and had to sell a floor, a building, had a floor in a building basically, and I had to sell everything and pay debt and walk out of that and try to figure out how to keep my home and my cars and all of that. And I got taught a very valuable lesson. And the first part of the lesson was that I got taught was I was dealing with a bunch of clowns, if you will, who were suing us for faxing, Faxing. Yes, that's right. They had received a fax on a machine, not from us, from a Canadian company, and they were suing us, and we did not know how to handle 50, 60, 70 lawsuits at a time. And what these guys do is they bum rush companies and they nail them on frivolous, erroneous things that were untrue. And they don't even serve you. They get judgments all over the state of California, and then they come and bring a enforcing party to your bank, to your door, to collect on a judgment that is illegally gotten. I dealt with that for 2 years. It crushed us as a company. It put us down, aside from the simple fact that we went through the '08 crisis and paid a couple 100,000 in judgments. Yes. We had to figure out a way to be completely bulletproof and disappear from the ability of what they were doing against us. And that's kind of what how the journey started for me was learning how to be bulletproof from lawsuits. That brought up all kinds of structures, all kinds of meaning business structures, ability to conduct business, how to conduct business, leases, how to obtain a lease, how to keep it private, how to deal with a servicing agent, and it just the worst possible thing in the world taught me the basics of what I'm able to tell people today. Obviously, as a real estate broker by trade, I got to see things that a lot of people don't see, how recordations are done, how to hold property in trust, how to hold property in a church name. Couple of the things now people are dealing with on a nationwide basis, and we're going to clear the air pretty good. Not so much tonight from a standpoint of answering questions or discussion points, but I want people to know that the county recorder is saying that an unincorporated private association, which is not us, we're a private foundation, is unable to hold land in private. The Supreme Court, I just want to say this, the Supreme Court feels differently. And so we are going to push back on county recorders that are giving grief to people that are trying, which is only one or two people, trying to put land in the private. The reason why they don't like it currently is because there are some states out there that charge personal property tax every year on what you own or control. Well, if you're taking that personal property, meaning your chickens, yeah, that's exactly what I said, your cars, your things, and you put them in a foundation, that foundation is in fact exempt from paying taxes. It is not a nonprofit. I want to clear some air with you guys because there's a lot of misconceptions. People that are taking and hearing something and converting it in their mind to the same language that they use to gain jurisdiction over people and over their stuff. Let me give you an example. Our foundations that we do are 100% tax exempt on the federal, on the state, anywhere you go. The problem that you may have is enforcing it. Have we enforced a tax exempt foundation to not have property taxes? The answer is yes. The problem is they will fight it and they will not let it become case precedent because you will be able to prove there is quote unquote church activity or quote unquote your ability to worship, which is all that you need to do and to prove because the idea or the element of what church is in their mind is not the idea or the element of what church is according to the book of Acts. And so where two or more are gathered in my name, that's church. And that element of worship takes place anywhere on that land that you wish. Doesn't have to have a church steeple, doesn't have to have a cross, doesn't have to have a pew, doesn't have to have a kneeling bench, doesn't have to have a crucifixion or the what's that Catholic thing? The Stations of the Cross. It doesn't have to have those things to be a church. A church is nothing more than right here and right here. So men have converted that to be something less. And they are trying to enforce their element of what church is onto people. So when we have a tax exempt organization, first and foremost, you are not a nonprofit. You are not a for profit. You are nothing to do with these coined words, verses that they have selected and trademarked and for their specific purposes. So I want to help you to understand when you're opening up a bank account, when you're dealing with land or what have you, you are in fact tax exempt. That does not mean you are a nonprofit. You are not a 508c1a, even though that looks most like you under the IRS code. You fall under the same rule set of 501A, even though you are not under the IRS jurisdiction. You are not a 501c3, an incorporated nonprofit church. You are no numbers at all. You are the sole purpose and belonging to the Elohim. God is the grantor. Yeshua is the beneficiary of all things. And you are operating as the executive director, which is like a trustee, if you will. In other words, yes, trust law could apply to the foundation, although it is a church. And there is no way that a county recorder can stop you or prohibit a church, unincorporated, from owning anything. The mere fact of the offer, the deed to record, and the fact that the county will record it, that's acceptance. Now, whether or not they change things on the books internally, and I'm dealing with this with one client right now, and we're going to enforce the county recorder to do their dang job because we're pulling Supreme Court rulings that allow for you to hold title in the name of a foundation. You do not need to express who you are to them, the style of company that you are. Again, you are tax exempt. That is not a classification or a qualification. And because you are tax exempt and you get your home put in the foundation name at the county recorder, that does not make you exempt from property taxes until you get the confirmation from the county that you are exempt from property taxes. There has been no agreement made by the county. Listen to me very carefully. This is always been said. I've never said anything different. And the reason why I'm saying this again and wanting to be stern is some people automatically think because you're tax exempt that Amazon is not going to charge you taxes just because you gave them an organization that says tax exempt or because you gave them an organization and told them you were tax exempt. There is always the element of you having to push forward. And yes, you can get something from, listen to me, if you wished, you could write the IRS and you could ask them for proof of tax exemption for your foundation, where they would say you do not have to file a return, and that is all over their website, and where you are in fact tax exempt. You can get that. Do I choose to get that? No. Have members gotten that before? Yes. The county will always say that doesn't apply to property taxes. Oh, really? That negates what I'm trying to teach you. What I'm trying to teach you is stop thinking that just because you recorded something in the name of a foundation that's unincorporated, unregistered, that they know it is tax exempt and they've removed you from the tax rolls. Immediately pay up your property taxes. Do it under duress, but pay up your property taxes immediately so that you are not falling behind and they don't foreclose on your property. Nobody has ever told you you are immediately tax exempt, especially since they don't know the style of entity that you are because they can't find you anywhere if they were to look. They couldn't find you at the Secretary of State. They couldn't find you in a Delaware, Nevada, all these Shell Corp Secretary of State websites showing that you've incorporated. They can't find you. So how would they know what kind of entity you were? And just because you recorded in the name of private foundation, it doesn't mean that there's this automatic exemption. I've always said this. This is a fight that we got to bring to the table eventually. Some of you may want the fight. Some of you may are just doing this for the tax purposes of not paying property taxes, or excuse me, paying capital gains taxes when you sell the property. That is an absolute, by the way. You can donate your home. You can receive the benefit of the donation for your personal taxes if you wish, and put a piece of land or a property, there is a difference, into the name of a foundation, and that foundation upon sale is capital gains exempt. Period. There are unequivocally benefits to having land in a foundation name, not just the capital gains exemption, it's death tax exempt. It passes on to the survivors of your children's 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 children if you can teach them how to keep it in the name of the foundation. It will keep the benefit and the level of property taxes of wherever you currently are if you do the transfer correctly. And there are ways that you have to do the transfer on a set of docs so that it's an in-house transfer, kind of like you're moving it from you to a trust name for the family. It's the same principle, and you can do that to the foundation to where you're not paying the tax stamps or the property transfer stamps or tax that you would happen to have because you moved it from a name to another name, or there was a sale made in their mind, and therefore they need to tax you again on that sale. This is super important because a lot of times people will go down these roads and say a foundation is not exempt because it is not immediately recognized as exempt. Unequivocally, I've posted it to our website. I've posted it to your docs that you have. When you get a foundation, you get a set of docs that explain this and show you this and prove this. The Supreme Court is on your side. You are exempt. And that means you don't pay taxes. If any monies that come through that organization or on anything that that organization holds. However, there's no way for a county recorder to know that. So you have to do one of two things. You either need to force the exemption, not apply for it, notice them of it, and go down the road of a hearing or a lawsuit. That's how you start. And know this, the Supreme Court supports you. So before you get into the hearing, you're going to want to walk them through exactly the laws that they will be violating per the Supreme Court if they do not honor your exemption. You don't need to have 50 cars on Sunday morning lined up in front of your house to have an exempt piece of land. Now, knowing what I've told you, I am not here to come along each and every person's side. I can't. The reason why we don't have a product, quote unquote, for this is because every single county recorder is a fight for the most part. Not to get the property put in the foundation name, not to get the property from capital gains exemption, death tax exemption, or bulletproof, which is really what happens when you put a property into the name of a foundation. You can't serve that foundation name. There's no process server. There's no Secretary of State recorded person for serving that foundation. So it becomes quite difficult and really an asset protected class, right? Of course. That's what it is. That's why we're doing this. The people that are going the extra mile are the ones that are pissed off, upset, or they just it's too expensive from a property tax standpoint. And yes, page 3 of our board and people that are recommending his advocates as a gentleman who is exempt on his property taxes for the state of Wisconsin to the tune of $40,000 a year. Okay? He fought for it and he got it. They don't want case precedences. All you have to do is worship. That is what the Supreme Court says. Doesn't say how many, doesn't say there's a building, doesn't say any of that. So we're putting some documents together this year. This is really not such a year of enforcement, it's just a year of notice. We want people to know that God is here. God and his people are taking back the land. Because if you knew what you are recording right now, you don't own anything. And this is super important for people to understand. This is why we wrote a book on who we are as state citizens. I'm going to write another book on trusts and foundations and the element of tax exemption on them and why. and the Supreme Court that support that. And it's pretty obvious the Supreme Court's already come behind us as a class for state citizens. Well, they've already come behind foundations as well. Um, and just for the record, people are out there. Sometimes they will look up private foundation on the IRS website, and there is a non-exempt private foundation that's listed on the IRS website. And they call it a private foundation. But I want to assure you that that private foundation class by that is on the IRS website is a 501c3 nonprofit that's been classified as a private foundation more for a family kind of a structure. Incorporated, converted to a 501c3, converted or labeled as a private foundation. Totally, totally different than a private foundation that we have. Number one. Number two, a private foundation that we have created, that we have placed under God, there is no jurisdiction over. So when you are reading a statute is for an individual or for a corporation. That's basically what all of them say. This is why we moved to the Supreme Court, because you, as an employee of the United States, holding an office of U.S. citizenship, making yourself an individual, you may have an obligation to hold title in a certain form or way. A foundation is a class unto itself. Foundation is a church directly under God. It is unequivocally tax exempt. A foundation has the ability to record in each and every state in and for the purposes of purchasing land. We've recorded in all 50 states foundations. We are now getting pushbacks because people do not know how to present themselves as it relates to a foundation. I get it. I'm not putting people down. I want you as people to know the foundation is exempt. That doesn't mean they know it, and that doesn't mean they've agreed to it. So if you're late on your taxes, pay them up until you get them forced into a position to where they understand your status. That is the only way to work. It's unfortunate the foundation is not just clearly understood as exempt, even though the Supreme Court says it is, even though the IRS says it is. It's something that the state really doesn't want to let go of, because once you record something, hear me out. You record something in the foundation's name, land, meets and bounds. Okay. Once you've done that, and then you win the argument of taxation, think about the value of that space, of those acres for the next 500 years. Think about that. I know you're dead, you're long gone, you don't care. I care for you. I care for your family. And this is why we're taking one little piece of parcel back at a time and placing it under the jurisdiction of the Elohim, because he is the beneficial interest of all things, Revelation is 5. And I want to make sure that we place everything under his authority, his beneficial interest, so that man's law protects it, God's law enforces it, and we are the fiduciary. And God bless America if we were able to do that for this entire nation, where the people weren't being bled dry and people could now truly have acres to where they can help this nation recover, help this nation get out from underneath the burdenship of what they are doing. Now, on to the next subject. Donald J. Trump. God bless him. I don't know. I am not sure if he is for us or against us. I know that there are so many elements of what he does that looks like it's to our benefit. I know, and I've seen the replay and all the post-ups of the Davos meetings. I've seen what he said about all the characters, but I'm also watching a lot of background play and the creation of a world structure that he is in 100% control of. All I'm saying is be careful. And don't think for a second, I put it in my book, don't think for a second, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over because the people in the Republic or the people that think they know the Republic think that because they were snookered into a lower class citizenship, that the president or somebody can just, by the strike of a hand, take away your subclass citizenship, United States citizen, and just let you become in the Republic again on the swipe of a pen of a president. Oh no. See, the Supreme Court has already ruled that U.S. citizenship cannot be involuntarily revoked by the government. Boom. My book, page 23. This is a Supreme Court ruling, and it's pretty recent that you can't lose your U.S. citizenship even though Donald Trump swipes it, says, hey, I'm reinstituting the Republic. Remember something. We have God-given unalienable rights here in this nation. We have a right to be a slave. We have rights to be less than the citizenship we were granted by our parents or by God. We have a right to be an employee of any company we want. And you, sir, cannot lose that unalienable right of being a lesser class citizen known as United States citizen. That is your God-given unalienable right that the government can't take that from you. So know this, Donald Trump can't help you get out of this structure and back into republic. It has to happen from you. You have to make it known yourself. So, listen, guys, we are staunch advocates of supporting people in their endeavors of becoming free at His Advocates. We launched a campaign last month, and a lot of people said, yes, we want that deal. We are coming into some pricing changes. Why? Because we have to, guys. I don't know if you saw this, if you're not watching it. The fact that gold went to $5,100 today, currently sitting at $5,046. Holy crud, silver hit $110 today, currently at $107. For all you people that have been with His Advocates for 15 years, you've been listening to me say this was going to happen. It's now happening. You are now being rewarded for being faithful to yourself and understanding these are the real currencies: gold, silver, future currencies that are coming, the ISO currencies, XRP, XDC, XLM, all the different ISO 20022 compliant currencies. Yes, you're going to be rewarded on those too. Yes, this year. Okay. I'm super happy with what I'm seeing. Am I selling anything? No. Why? Why wouldn't I take something? Because 20 years ago, we watched it go to 50, 55 or whatever, and then it collapsed. Remember that? This time's a little bit different. We're moving into a lot of reasons why people are buying the crap out of silver right now. But the miners want guarantees before they're digging for the first time ever at $2.30 for an ounce, or excuse me, $230 an ounce for every mined piece of silver. That should tell you the value of what silver is going to be in the very near future. You guys that followed, listened, went on to our website, hisadvocates.org. You can click on the products. Listen to me. It's still going up and it's going to continue to go up. Gold and silver will always be a great purchase. Okay. The dollar is collapsing. All right. I know. Make America great again. I got it. Look, Trump is heavily, heavily divested in crypto, has his own coin, has his own companies building up Bitcoin centers. I am telling you right now, be very careful. But you can go to hisadvocates.org, click on products at the top, the drop down. There's a gold and silver at cost. Go become a member there. You can buy gold and silver at cost. Anybody that needs help selling silver, if you want to sell silver, join our VIP membership. It's $49 a month. We are doing an amazing work this year with transforming ourselves, investing in ourselves, and we're doing it from a standpoint of Christianity. But we're empowering ourselves scripturally, we're empowering ourselves and creating massive momentum for our own personal lives. We are watching what the world is doing. We are watching how the world is playing out, and we are not doing the woe is me. We are empowering ourselves to be better than anything we could ever be. And so we have to be smart. We have to stay together and we have to grow together. And that's what we've been doing. Look at what's happened. I had a meeting a month ago on a consultation with a lady, and she wanted to thank me. She bought an incredibly large amount of gold, a large amount of gold when it was way down. She was thanking me profusely for that purchase because she did not do it initially. It took her a year or 2 years. Same with a lot of people on XRP. I've been touting XRP since late 2017, 18. Get on this. This is going to be the world's reserve currency. And what is it doing? It's playing out like it is. It's playing out like it's got the contracts. And what you're watching is the fight right now, not to dis SRP, to shake the people out of holding XRP. That's what you're seeing right now, which I've already said that was going to take place. I also said I believe they will make it illegal to own XRP, and they're going to make it very difficult from a tax strategy standpoint to hold and own silver. Okay. They're going to shake you out on silver in a big way from a tax standpoint. You're going to have to figure that one out. But we've already got the solution. And you members at His Advocates know we have the solution and we have the ability to help you guys become tax exempt. Holy crap. Silver is $107 per ounce. Think about that. Think about how many of you guys are structurally, not just on paper, but in your vault, your private vault, healthy, rich, getting on your way to become rich. It's the same thing with your crypto holdings, everything. It's not what you buy, it's what do you do with it once you become. Hang on to it, enjoy the ride. We're all young. Let's play this out together over the next 5 years and watch what happens. I guarantee we're going to be doing very well together. Again, this is a Q&A. I'm going to jump on the questions right now. Hopefully we'll get done with them at a reasonable, respectable time. I do have appointments after this, and I look forward to getting onto those as well. Do you have information on how to access the Sesquite Key V Trust? The Sesquite V Trust. I misread what you said. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, I do. Submit a support ticket. We don't do it ourselves. We'll give you name and number of somebody if you're interested. I have a question. I was born in DC and I thought you said that Maryland, I could be a Maryland citizen, but I live now in Colorado. Does that mean if I am a citizen of Colorado where I live, or is it Maryland? So what you do is you look at the hospital where you were born. The District of Columbia is a territory on top of land. So we look at the hospital, we look at what it was before it became DC. That's what you allege yourself to. That's the state to which you were born on. Okay. DC is territory. You can make allegiance to Maryland. So even though you live in Colorado, Maryland would be your state citizenship status. Is this correct? Donation is when we give our to our foundation. Contribution is the name of the receipt that the foundation provides for the donation. It's all contribution. So if somebody wants to give a contribution, sometimes I call it donation, but it's all contributions. Donation is for nonprofits. I've structured my business as an LLC with an LLC as a sole member and the LLC with a foundation as its sole member. What are your thoughts on this structure? Not okay. Where does it create exposure for me? Andrew, all the same state. So you have an LLC with another LLC as a sole member, and then that LLC has a foundation as a sole member. Um, I don't see any problem with it. Um, what is the purpose of the LLCs? I have a ton of questions on it. What is the purpose of the LLC? What state are they all done in, meaning the LLCs? And are you doing it for the purposes of tax exemption of the one LLC where the foundation is the sole member? Are you trying to get them all tax exempt, or what I would call as a disregarded entity? What I want you to do your research on is look up the word disregarded entity in IRS code, do some research underneath that. But I don't really see any structural issue with what you're trying to do or obtain. I think there's no need for it unless you're doing it for licensing purposes, but I get it. Knowing that my business is structured in layers like that, how should I grant myself authority to manage each LLC? Just a position you take. It would be a contract that you'd work within, or you can work as the executive director as a private worker and then create a marketing agreement between the foundation and the first LLC. Again, I don't know what you're trying to do, so I'm kind of guessing here a little bit, but I would keep the distance from you holding a position in an LLC to having the LLC outsourcing all of its positions with the foundation. Does opening up a Venmo account link to my foundation create exposure? No. Nope. As a member, equivalent role with my LLC, which you're not a member because your foundation is sole member of the second one, and your second LLC is sole member of the first one. So as a manager or equivalent with role within my LLC, which I don't recommend, how should I sign contracts with the client? So you're gonna sign like I always teach you as a managing role working for the foundation. So the contract with the LLC is going to be with them. If it were me, would be with the foundation to manage the LLC. And you're going to pay the foundation those management fees or whatever that is. And then obviously that's a pass through. Hello, Kelby. I'm reopening my foundation account with B of A, or trying to. It seems like they've been busy adding more requirements. Not really. They're asking for a secondary ID aside from my driver's license, which is the easiest ID to provide secondary form in addition to the driver's license. Passport. Do you have passport, John? Just give him the passport card. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Also asked if I could cash a check on the reopened account. However, the agent informed me that B of A no longer accepts secondary endorsements. Therefore, I cannot deposit a check made out to BC into the foundation account. I do it all the time. All the time. And everything is how you endorse, and you just do it at the ATM. So on that type of an endorsement, if something was made out to you, the BC name, the BC is signatory on the top of the back of the check. Under that, you're going to write paid to the order of XYZ foundation number for, um, so endorsement paid to the order of XYZ foundation. Next line, deposit for lawful money only to account number, foundation account number, and then write the foundation name on the bottom, which is the second endorsement. That's a proper succession of endorsements. You have two endorsements on one check. ATM all day long. They can't shut that down, really. With these changes B of A is making, is it still the optimal location to open a foundation account, or is there somewhere else? Wells Fargo, B of A. I don't really like Wells, but B of A, Wells Fargo. You want to deal with somebody has a lot of fish in their pond. That way, they don't really see you. Um, with AI, KYC, know your client, all those things. There may be some cracking down in the next few years, and we're definitely looking into offshore banking for all of us. 100%. Anyway, um, if items or assets are required through cash, FRNs should still be a donation note made, contribution note made to the foundation, as there is a record of ownership for proof of the foundation's property. I would do it. If you're buying something with cash and that's coming out of a personal account or what have you, still make those things clearly donated, especially if it's metals, crypto, things that can appreciate like that. Car, something small, jackets, clothing, not a big deal. And you can register them, but you still need to donate them. You want to show a transfer of title on the metals, on the crypto. And go and we do for people that are trying to transfer crypto to their foundations, we do have both sides donation receipts or contribution for crypto and receipts and all that stuff that you may want to check in with us on. What email provider do you use for the foundation, or do you utilize a self-hosting infrastructure? I have a self-hosting structure. I don't own any. I'm in control of 60 plus domains. So I have emails that are related to each foundation. Um, I'm having a retirement income automatically deposited into my foundation if the company doesn't take a W-9. They don't. They're obliged to pay the BC, and they're going to give the BC a W-2. I have sent a 1090, but I am a state citizen. What do I do? Um, so the structure that's wrong, but you can take retirement income, donate it into the foundation, which you're pretty much doing. You just got to create the paper trail associated to that contribution, if you will. And once you are on the other side of this, you're not going to have an obligation necessarily to file a return. You may still receive a 1099 or, some form of an income statement from the party. But again, a state citizen does not have an obligation to file a return. Now, I tell people, if it were me, um, and there's some people that are scared of not filing a return. Um, and I just want to say to you something that unequivocally would hopefully make you feel comfortable. When you guys do a revocation of election, it is absolute that you are no longer a party to paying taxes. Now that spins off to a whole different jurisdictional position that the IRS assumes they have over everybody. And in the next few weeks, I really want to get into helping people in their mind accepting what they have done as a state citizen and what they've done with the IRS, because there is no obligation to file a return. The question is, how do you operate with these existing structures or existing things that they think they supposedly have jurisdiction over? And that's really what I want to get into. I've gotten into it before. I haven't made it um, presentable on a knowledge base. It's been done in a Q&A form like this. And so we're really working hard to get everything transferred from a Q&A into a knowledge base so that you guys understand what to do with your situation. But keep doing what you're doing, Hawkeye, and then make records of contributions of those assets into the foundation. And we will discuss what to do with you based on your comfort level on a return later to the IRS. How's that sound? Or lack of return. Craig, what's happening? Have people already cashed out their 401k and put the money in a foundation and bought silver and gold 10,000 times? I don't mind paint 10% penalty, but don't want to pay regular income tax on the rest. Yeah, that's Craig, that's old news. People have been doing that for 15 years with me. Um, we are in the LPP program. However, being offered 7% shares of a S corp. What is the best way to handle this without creating another adhesion contract? Just tell them that you want your company to own the shares and give them the name of your foundation and your tax ID number and a W-9, which we give to you, and that should be sufficient. Kelby, what is the best way to sign a signature on a warranty deed? I got your email, David. I was going to answer that. Sorry. What is the best way to sign a signature? If it's our warranty deed, just sign it normally. You're fine. You're going to want to do because you're doing both sides. You know, you're doing the seller side on your personal basis and you're doing the buyer side on behalf of the foundation. So for yourself, there's no need to do a non-assumption all rights reserved and all that stuff on a warranty deed because if it's our deed, you're protected. Number one. Number two, on the purchasing side, when you're doing the grant deed acceptance, because there's two signatures, you're going to do slash executive director. That's it. And you're going to put the word buy on the purchasing side, but on the selling side, whatever the name it's in, if it's in your name, there's no need to put a word buy. Unless they show the name is capitalized, then put the word buy, sign it, and you're fine. Would you be willing to share your email self-hosting setup? These guys suck. iPage, they suck. But they've been consistent about sucking. They haven't gone down, but many of my websites have gone down, and I haven't had the time to update the software on the back end, and that's something I believe they should have done. Bottom line is, I wouldn't use them, and if I can get away from them, I would. My apologies. There's a ton of self-hosting companies out there that you can get your own domains on and control all that stuff. GoDaddy, you know, all that. But I chose this one because they were um, unlimited domains, and it's about $200 a year, something like that. If I provide the Social Security card as a secondary ID for the foundation account, should I request a new card from the Social Security Administration to sign it on assumption? You know, John, you don't really need a secondary ID like that. Um, so you have a driver's, do you have the passport yet? Um, they accept other bank cards. They accept credit cards as secondary forms of ID. Something to consider. I would stay away from the social if it were me. We just started the process. Not sure how long it takes to get the foundation up and going. Week, 2 weeks, depends on how quick you are getting us the statement of faith and the information that we need. And we'll continue to pay taxes until we have all of our documentation completed. Well, you have to pay taxes no matter what, unless you go through the LPP process. The foundation is separate. People do purchase a foundation and somehow think that they are personally tax exempt. No, the foundation is tax exempt. And whatever you receive personally needs to be dealt with through a living in the private program, state citizenship, IRS, and going through that process. Anyway, just saying that because a lot of times people mix the two. Um, I'm assuming we will have to file for 2026, even if we only pay for 6 or 8 months. If you're going through the living in the private and you do your IRS docs and you do your state citizenship passport up until the point where you file for the passport and the docs, IRS docs, which should be around the same month, that's what you file for. Now, there is a difference of filing and paying. The filing allows for them to set off and receive payment on your 1040s. Make sure that on that final return, you're noticing them of a final return. Give them a copy of the IRS docs that you did. Give them a copy of the revocation, notice of removal, once again, and notice of status, coupled with the final return, where you are dealing with the oath on the final return. Cross out U.S. citizen, U.S. person. I agree on the oath on the 1040 and give them the 1040. If it were me, I'm not telling you what to do. I would not write a check with the 1040. I would let them set the 1040 off to any extreme that they wish. Sign it with full reservation of rights with the word "by" in front of your name. You can do a normal signature, or you can simply do a non-assumptive signature. I would do a normal signature, let them set the debt off, but put non-assumptive, all rights reserved without prejudice under the signature. I know I just said a mouthful. Replay this until you get it right. It's not that difficult, but that way they set off the 1040. It means they get paid. That way you're done as the fiduciary over the U.S. citizen up until the point to where you filed those docs. That way now you're just doing the final return. And again, once again, you're giving them notice of what you have done. So they now understand the other side. And so that's it. If any his advocates members were unjustly arrested and imprisoned as a U.S. citizen, although they were state citizens, how is that possible? Would you or any his advocates leadership be notified to assist? Number one, how do you get imprisoned as a U.S. citizen if you're a state citizen? There's still the element where they can get a grand jury to go through a lawful due process and come after somebody who has done wrong to another person as a state citizen. You're not getting a free ride to go and burglarize, rape, and murder people because you're a state citizen. There are laws and rules that you need to abide by. I would have to, on a onesie, twosie basis, look at what has been transpired and read something before I'd be willing to just help anybody out. But in 15 years, people that have gone through our process completely have not ever had a single hiccup or issue. There are people that get pulled over, law enforcement, where they have shown their passport card and they have been let go of. I have not had anybody, had one guy where the cop had to lie and say he didn't have any identification, and that's what he was arrested for. He spent the weekend away from his wife and three daughters and had the best 3 days of his life, according to him. He's a friend of mine. They were at my wedding. Um, Nevertheless, they had to lie to get an arrest because they couldn't arrest him for anything else. People are not getting picked up for being state citizens. They're getting picked up for doing stupid things and thinking they are above some law or violating something against some other party. Those are the people that get in trouble. But I've yet to see, and this is, and I'm doing very careful on my disclosure right now because I don't want to see state citizens out there even violating U.S. statute or code. I don't want to see that. That's just my personal opinion. You don't have a, unless we as a nation, which the Supreme Court agrees with us as state citizens, but law enforcement has yet to be trained in this. So we can't sit there and fight law enforcement. Look at what law enforcement's doing to both free people and people trying to be free here in this nation. There's 1,000 murders by law enforcement or 1,000 killings. Let me correct that. Maybe half of them murder, if you ask me, wrongfully by law enforcement every year. Now we have ICE doing the same thing. So we have to be above reproach because they don't know who you are upon contact. Um, but you're asking for help as a U.S. citizen when I don't know what the case would even be about. I'm not going to help a rapist. I'm not going to help somebody that gets a 502. I'm not going to help people in those cases. And if somebody has not followed a procedure of the living in the private, how can I help them? But I can't see somebody that's followed a procedure of the living in the private having an issue with the IRS or having an issue with all those problems that they had before when they were a U.S. citizen. This is why we don't get door knocks, is because it's in their own code that we're taking advantage of the removal of the office of the person, getting proof of non-employment from the United States, stopping receiving personal mail, stopping and receiving personal jurisdiction. That's what that does. Getting the passport as a state citizen, doing the IRS documents. There's 9 docs total, 3 documents using a lawfully executed administrative process, creating a court of record with every single public franchise that you have a contract with, IRS, SSA, voters, all these public franchises that they use for personal jurisdiction on a warrant or an indictment. This is what we have done, John, is we reversed engineered warrants and indictments to create the living and the private. If somebody follows that practice and protocol, they are left wanting in personam jurisdiction. Okay, so I just want to share that with you. That's not the end all for them violating law and picking up a state citizen. Get it? But it sure is helpful. And I'd rather be in the position I'm in than in being a U.S. citizenship position and violating statute and code. And I'm not recommending anybody violate statute and code. Belinda, next question. When I move my crypto and silver into my foundation, on my letter, I'm stating contribution, not donation. They sent me a U.S. passport instead of a state citizen passport. John, um, no, they sent you a passport as a state of the union citizen. If you applied through us as a state citizen, you are in fact a state citizen. What the passport says is United States of America on it. They issue that passport both to a U.S. citizen and or a state citizen. It cannot change because it's the United States of America passport that has the ability to travel around the world. John, when they try to go after you for a warrant or indictment, they don't look at your passport and see that it says U.S. citizen because it doesn't say it anywhere on your passport that you are a U.S. citizen. What it says is citizen of the United States of America, and it shows your picture on it. What they do in every federal and state case is they pull a copy of the application to prove jurisdiction over the individual because they are accepting U.S. citizens, American Indians, all, and I can go on and on and on. U.S. nationals, state nationals don't exist, but they accept them under 8 U.S.C. 1101 821, which are synonymous with U.S. citizens and state of the union citizens. So all of those people have an opportunity to get a passport from the United States of America. So they only, when they're trying to prove jurisdiction, they only go after the application. Let's go to your application now, John. What does it say? Unequivocally, you are not a U.S. citizen. Absolutely giving your allegiance to your state and to the Declaration of Independence, right? If you read your entire application, there is no doubt that you are, in fact, a state citizen. That's what they do on your passport docs. That's what they do on banking applications. That's what they do on DMV and all these things. That's why we create the new agreements with the public franchises. That's why we correct the record with the Secretary of State or Department of State with your status as a state citizen. And that's why we do constructive notice of the new court of record to all the public franchises with your fee schedule at the end. This is why they don't come out and go after state citizens, is because you've done the proper work in getting all of the records changed to affect who you are now. And then you create the active state, the court of record is complete, and you serve constructive notice. So very, very powerful. I shut down all my old banking credit cards and accounts when I went into the LPP. That's what I would have done. Good job, John. I paid off my house and it's in a trust. I can get a property U tax exemption. If your house is in a trust, your house is not tax exempt. A low cost house insurance. Brother, there's a few companies out there, but nobody's low cost on house insurance. Our house insurance has gone up 400% in the last 3 or 4 years. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. 400%. Can you believe that? Um, my house is currently in a foundation or in a trust, and our only current bank account is a trust account. As my foundation is being set up soon, is there a best way to integrate the foundation into our trust web? What I would be doing personally is incorporating your trust into the foundation web. So you can have trust-like language. And I explain this to people all the time. A foundation is a form of a trust where God is the grantor. You're operating as quasi-trustee, pastor, and and Yeshua is the beneficial interest within all things biblical, all churches. It's Christian, Revelations 5. Jesus benefits from everything here on this earth. So why keep, and I'm going to beat this into the whole world. Why are we keeping things in trust? I know there's a lot of smart people out there. Trust, trust, trust. You can have a trust-like lifestyle with tax exemption guaranteed under the United States Supreme Court if you put your assets into a foundation. So currently under trust, Craig, you're going to have a beneficial interest day, meaning when you die and you pass your stuff on, your kids are going to sell it all and take and rip apart all the hard work that you've done in the family. Okay. And then the kids are going to have to pay taxes on the benefits. Absolutely. They're going to receive a 1099 for the beneficial interest of whatever you've already paid tax on. They're also going to pay, if you're not smart and everything isn't in the trust, death tax, potential transfer tax of properties, different things like that. If it all goes into a foundation, you can take trust-like language with what you already have. And I'm not putting down your trust because trust language is empirical. It's absolutely needed. And we've done that from a basic level within the foundation, but you can show your children how to keep things inside of the foundation. It does many benefits by doing that. You're going to skirt death tax, estate tax, capital gains tax, transfer tax, income tax, and on and on and on. So you take the asset, you give it to God right now. You're the fiduciary. You teach your family how to do the same through the language you use inside of the foundation. Let the asset sit in the foundation, which owns the land and not property. I guarantee if I were to read your deeds right now, your trust owns air. So it's important that we move it from the trust into a foundation where you're using our deed at his advocates. You're using gold by hand. Uh, you're getting rid of the language of tenants or tenants in common. You're using fee simple absolute as the tenure to which you hold title. You're doing a grant deed acceptance, which most every deed in this nation, and I mean this, do not accept the deed, which means there's no consummation of anything. And that's why they are able to register your deeds and they own and control your properties because you are doing a legal description. You do not have meets and bounds on your deeds. There's about 6 elements that are absolutely required on a deed. So yes, trust, that's one thing, but we also got to remember we got to hold title appropriately. Once we hold title, put it in the foundation name, have your trust like language inside the foundation. You're exempt for generations to come. If I find a better way of self-hosting setup, I will let you know. Please. Thank you, brother. It's iPage or iPages. I think it's iPage.com. I've been hearing a lot about ICE arrests. Some people say they aren't checking docs, and they're no, they're not. They're just taking people down pretty hardcore and pretty quick. Some people say they are checking docs. Some people say we have the right to not provide docs. Um, that's true. You don't. As a matter of fact, Brown versus Texas stipulates any law enforcement, including ICE, do not have a right to ask you whether or not for your identification specific to that language of identification unless they are a witness of you committing a crime. Because you are brown or look like you're from another country, a Somalian, if you were black and you have a language issue, does not give a cop rights to demand something or wrestle you out of your car until you give it to them. So all of these cases are going to be cases if these people were smart and were to able to take it in. But these guys are targeting. I'm sure it's not, they're going after people that they know are not lawful. Like when people are applying for a driver's license, they know whether you're a citizen of the United States or not. They know whether you have a green card or not, and they will associate that license to the vehicle. So when they're pulling people over, they already know you're not a U.S. citizen. You get it? These are not dumb people. They're doing unlawful things in a lot of different respects when it's coming time to try to access your information. I don't agree with the way ICE is handling business. I think they can do it completely different, and I think they're going to get their butts handed to them. I really do. I think the element of the United States government covering up for their ICE officers right now is going to take a back burner very soon, and I think that the people are going to prevail and that law will become the law again. But for now, you're dealing with it. And just know Brown versus Texas is your go-to. Get that out to the people. But if I didn't know, but if they didn't check docs, they would be arresting entities they would assume don't have documentation, illegal alien or US citizen, which some have said they have made arrests as well. Hey guys, you do not have an obligation, especially if you're a citizen of this nation, to provide identification unless they've witnessed you commit a crime. Brown versus Texas. What do you think about? And by the way, if you are a U.S. citizen and you do have an arrest and it's an unlawful arrest, which that is, for not providing an identification because you have a color of skin that's brown, you will win a lot of money. Let them arrest you peacefully. Go to jail for a couple of days. Let them find out they screwed up and file an action when you get out. That's worth it. That's worth it. What do you think about noticing Palantir to remove our private? We are working on that right now, not just Palantir, all public agencies of digital everything, blood, DNA. We're working on it. Wait, so the passport that I received that I thought was US citizen passport is the incorrect passport. No, you're not listening. It's the same passport as a state citizen. Everything, John, goes by the application in this country. When they are trying to prove jurisdiction in any court action, any indictment, they don't look at the identification, they look at the application. This is why they have specific departments for judges to order copies of your application to show that you filled it out as a U.S. citizen. And that will prove that your passport is showing you as a state citizen. So you actually received the correct passport. If you went through our process to submit the application we gave you, yes, you received the correct passport. And what we do, John, is we order certified copies. Watch, this is how it works. Offer, your application. Acceptance, passport. We order certified copies of your passport, application, and all explanatory statements to be attached and certified by the Department of State. That is evidence in any court when you have anything certified by any agency within the state or federal governments. That certified application can become evidence in any case where they are saying you are a U.S. citizen. You can easily submit that and rebut the presumption of U.S. citizenship in a particular case. So I could use this passport, correct, to open up a bank account. That's correct. No, you do not have a wrong passport. Not if it went through us and you got a passport. Elohim is not capitalized in the LPP paperwork. Explain this, please. Why not use Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh? Why not use a lot of different things? You can change it to whatever you want. This is up to you. Everybody has a different understanding of how things should be capitalized, how things should be interpreted, how things should be considered legal, lawful. You can add a definition, equals, put a little star next to it, put a definition down below. It's up to you. Everybody has a different of opinion. Kinsey, signing a contract with the city to do work through my business, work with them through my business. Do I sign by my autograph, ARR without prejudice? So again, Kim, just remember, always keep a little stamp on the stamp says ARR non-assumptive without prejudice. I put that above the line and I sign over the top of it. And I would give them a W-9 from the foundation and do it in the foundation name if you can. And by the way, I will get to your book this week. Promise. I've been busy. Crazy. All right. I paid off my house and it's in a trust. Yes, I already answered that. I work for the state as a medic. I get a state pension. Would that be null and void as a private citizen? No. So that's a really good question. It's not naive. I think we all think that we are, in fact, that artificial person known as the birth certificate. This is not this is not sovereign citizen stuff. The BC birth certificate is a corporation. It's not you. It's a representation of you. It's also the US citizen, 9 UCC. It's the registered organization, corporation, masquerading itself as you. You're coming and saying you're holding this BC and you're saying, this is me. I'm holding this office of US citizen. I'm going to use this to become a driver. I'm going to use this to become an employee. I'm going to use this to become a voter. All jobs under the same umbrella of US citizen. So when you're getting a pension to the BC name, that doesn't mean that you're not still able to have status as a state citizen. If it were me, I'd get the pension and put it into a foundation account, make the contribution. I would do my IRS docs, become a state citizen, do my IRS docs, but still have everything go through the foundation because we have what I call a trifecta. I'm doing the status change with the Department of State. I'm doing the IRS documents that are clearly removing my signature from anything I've ever signed with them because it's fraud and defecting. I'm also doing a notice of revocation of election. I'm also doing a notice of status. 3 different letters to the IRS done in a form and fashion that's called an administrative process to create a court of record. They do this all the time in non-judicial foreclosures against people all over this country. They create an administrative process to steal people's houses unlawfully, but because your lack of response into a case or your lack of responding to their notices, they're able to take your house on a foreclosure on the courthouse steps. Now, we're doing the same process against every public franchise on your behalf. So you don't have to worry about how you receive compensation. You have to worry about what you've done documentation wise today to get to the status. And then what do you do with the documentation where you're receiving a check from the state? Do you want to cash that personally? Do you want to still file returns? Everybody's a little different. If it were me, I would never file another return again. I would never receive anything into an account under my name. I would endorse it over to a foundation account and I would put everything into the foundation account on a go forward basis. That way there's no contract. And can a non-US citizen, state of the union citizen get resident in a state tuition rate at a public university or is a non-resident rate available? You're going to have to ask that question differently. I think I understand what you're meaning by that. Remember, your birth certificate is the resident. Your birth certificate is the U.S. citizen. You got to delineate yourself from being the trustee on that and become the beneficial interest on it. This is the problem that a lot of people are having in understanding that they are not a corporation, they're a living man or a living woman, and that the corporation is the one that is quote unquote the quasi-resident. So you can still be a state citizen and you can still contract with a university to get a rate as a resident of that state. And you just have to make sure you do a reservation of your rights and that you're always in dealing with these companies, you're making sure that you have a non-assumption all rights reserved on your signature area on these so that, yeah, because if the name's written on the contract in all caps, that's the BC. The BC can be a resident. Doesn't mean you are. All right, guys, I think we got through. Excellent. Listen, many blessings. Do me a favor. Um, go to His Advocates TV. We just hired a crew. We're working on our marketing. We're working on a lot of things. Go to His Advocates TV, join it on your phone. Sony, Samsung, LGs, you can find our app on your TV. Um, let your friends know about who we are. Please forward our information to one person tonight. Subscribe to this channel on YouTube. It really helps us. And I say that in all humility. We get less than 25% people actually subscribers that watch us. We do have about 85,000 subscribers. We want to bring that to a totally different awareness. So we're working on our tags, we're working on our descriptions, we're working on our labels, we're working on our pictures, our thumbnails, we're working on all that stuff. We have people in the background helping us out with that. So help us by subscribing, help us by forwarding this information to people. Let everybody know there is a book out. That's why I have it in my background. What does it mean to be an American? This book has, and it helps people in understanding what allegiance to the state does. And no, we are not sovereign citizens. No, it is not. It's not something that is illegal, immoral. It's what our founders were, and it's what you can be today. I think we have this awesome opportunity to get this for ourselves. Just know this, stay on track, stay focused. The wins are in our court, and especially at His Advocates when we keep things under the perspective that we do. Um, and we are having tremendous success. We're not getting door knocks, we're not getting harassed, or we're not getting any of those things. But we are going to hold these people accountable. They will be recording things. They will do things our way because the Supreme Court supports us in getting things done. I just think we got to stop being stupid and giving away the farm in advance. I think we really need to consider who we are as people under God directly. And I think God would be way more proud of us if we stood ground and stood up and stopped turning the other cheek. I don't think people understand scripturally the true intent of the Hebrew as it was written at that time. I think we were meant to think what King James wanted us to think, and I don't agree with most scholars today, and that's fine. It's my opinion. I don't agree with a lot of scholars about certain words that were added or implemented that make us weak sauce believers. We need to stand with God, under God, and know that God was strong enough to give us the ability as believers to have a church or a foundation or a structure under Him and have everything in the law, man's law, support it. God knows what God is doing. Let us do right by God. Let us not put things in our name. Let us control it, put it under the Elohim, whatever you want to call. And I know people have a different version of the way you would say Jesus, the way that you would say Yah, Yahweh. I get it. You do what works for you. God is not going to dishonor me for thinking the way I do. I guarantee that when we get to heaven, I am going to get that on both sides of my cheek, a big fat kiss and a well done, good and faithful servant, because I don't make a pretense for thinking I can own anything right now. The smartest people in this world own nothing. Don't ever forget that. What they also did was create private foundations and trusts, and they want you to think certain ways of whether or not they are exempt, nonprofit. They mix up these keywords. They go after one or two people, and then it drives the fear into everybody. You will not have anybody come after you if you put land in a foundation. You will not have anybody come after you if you become a state citizen and you honor your brother. Okay. We are going to do this together. Remember, the Republic has, in fact, been re-inhabited. We have these opportunities to come out of her right now. We got to start getting the information out. This is a great way to do it. Listen, I make this offer, I think, pretty much every time. 150 of these books. Send me a Zelle or excuse me, 50 of these books, 50, 50, for $150. Send me a Zelle for $150. I'll send you 50 of these books. Tell me you Zelled me on what date, what time, and from what name. I will look it up and give me a name and address to send 50 books to, and I will forward you 50 books so you can send these out to your community and get everybody involved. Help us get this channel noticed to other people. Please forward our videos off, get people into understanding the language. We need your help, guys. We need to be freeing people. And I thank you for joining us today. I will see you Tuesday, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific for the VIP members. You know what we're going through and you know what we're doing. I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow, to drilling in some really good positive education. And I hope that you VIP members are appreciating what we're doing because it's going to be life changing for a lot of people. God bless you guys. Have a great night. I will see you next Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific for the next Q&A. Enjoy your week.